And this will be recorded, and we will have this available on the website early next week. And so let's get right into it. So again, I'm Phil Mason, I'm your host, and I'm joined today by the one, the only, Charles Min.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing today?
And actually sitting in today is a star that many of you know very well, Adrienne Depew.
Hey, good afternoon.
Adrienne is going to be your host next month in March, as I will be taking a couple days off when our next Tech Tip Live comes around. And as a reminder, we do them every third Thursday every month, except we take July off in December. So anyway, I will do, again, kind of our standard fare, do a little introduction, talk about Server Edition. Charles will get into the nuts and bolts, and then at the end, we will have time for questions. All right, so what is Server Edition? Why do we have it? I want to set it up a little bit. More and more, the reason people are working with GainSeeker and programs like GainSeeker, it is about data visibility. And so the more ways we can get data visible, the better. Not everyone has access to GainSeeker. They don't have it installed in their computer. Maybe they're at a different company, they're a different location, or even if they do, they may not be that proficient to even get into some of the advanced analysis and charts and such. We see more and more companies wanting to give their supply chain partners some consistent reporting, and having that automated would definitely be helpful to them and ease that flow of information. So when we have security, what? That's like the wrong slide. Where'd that happen?
No, that's.
No, that was from before. Anyway.
Oh, whoops. It made sense to me. It's
failed to get that one updated as it should be. What we're going to be saying there is with Server Edition, what we can do is we help really free a lot of the charts, the dashboards, the desktops. We free those from kind of your typical being contained within GainSeeker and free those to be sent out to people that are less connected to GainSeeker on a more active basis. And so as we talk about here now in the resolution is GainSeeker Server Edition. We have visualizations pushed to email addresses or an IP address or web address, as that may be. You can put together batches of reports that can automatically go to supply chain partners and satisfy their reporting needs. And oftentimes with some clients, you don't need a complete GainSeeker user to view these visualizations. If you have someone in a headquarters someplace else, or again, back to your supply chain, they can see these visualizations, get access to them, and don't actually have to be a user. You know, the other thing I haven't mentioned, and I think Charles would, but we have clients where they have display monitors in the break room, in the lunchroom, and they have some constantly scrolling reports of what's going on in production, as many of you do, of various types of information, but that GainSeeker and that data can be put out there as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Charles, and he will take you through some of the technical details of how you get Server Edition to work, and for those of you who don't have it, what you would see and some of the things you'd be paying attention to. So Charles, take it away.
right. So we've all seen, your desktops in GainSeeker charts. You've got a lot of information that you're trying to pass around. Backing up a step, your GainSeeker charts desktops, you've got charts. The slide that you're seeing, they're only SPC control charts, but you know that your desktops can contain SPC charts, DMS charts, dashboards of all types. What are you going to do to send this information out to people that need to see this on a regular basis? Well, you got a couple different things. I'm going to start with the dashboards, because with the dashboards, it's the most straightforward. It's the easiest thing to start with. Every dashboard within the designer, when you're designing the dashboard, having Server Edition automatically allows you to export your dashboard to a file name, to a file. Usually you want to save it to either, I think we defaulted to a JPEG image. We do say make sure you include the file type and the full path of your file name. In conjunction with the dashboard timer, this allows you to automatically, it'll refresh the dashboard, pull up all the latest data. Once the dashboard has loaded, write out the image to your network or wherever it is on your computer that you're saving this file. You can then do whatever you want with the file. Email it out to everyone, keep it on your network for people to have access to, etc. The one downside to having this format is that it's going to keep overwriting the same file. But sometimes that's great because we talked about having display monitors out on the shop floor. We are a big, Server Edition helps you manage that a little bit better by being able to say, all right, I know that these are the same dashboards that I'm exporting. They're always going to have the same images. We're just going to rotate these images as a slideshow of updated information. We're going to update our dashboards every 5 minutes because we're collecting data probably every 10 to 15 minutes pretty regularly. Each of these dashboards are refreshing. They're being exported. We've got some slideshow carousels handling all this information. Life is good on the shop floor. That's the first thing that Server Edition allows you to do. You've got your dashboards and you're sharing them with people who aren't using GainSeeker, who know what's going on with the data. You can still all this information doesn't change what happens or who it gets sent to. You've got screenshots.
And so again, key point there: screenshots. It's not a chart where you can right click and do all those things, but it's a screenshot, and it's to give people that information there, right?
Correct.
Yep.
So that is kind of the drawback to exporting them as a screenshot, is that they're not interactive. There's pros and cons to that, and we'll get to that a little bit later. The other option, when you have a desktop that you're trying to manage, the slideshow option for a desktop is already built into GainSeeker charts. You guys get that. What is included with the Server Edition is to be able to save them as web pages, HTML files on your network. Each chart is its own HTML file, plus each chart is also its own image. So it'll rotate through everything, and it basically does the same thing as the dashboard refreshing itself. But with the desktop slideshow, it's each chart that you have. So you've got 4 charts, a couple of dashboards. All 6 of those items will cycle through and be shown. What's nice about the slideshow as an HTML? Same way with the exporting of the dashboard images. You can share them on your network. You're able to display them in somewhere that doesn't have GainSeeker installed or doesn't have access to GainSeeker, or it's a great roll-up report of everything that you're showing on the shop floor on this desktop slideshow, and share them with other members of your company, other people. It's a nice clean report to share.
So Charles, we have a number of our clients who are on today, or some of our bigger clients who have multiple configurations. These types of things, you can't necessarily, we probably can't span configurations. It's going to be within the configuration you're working in at that time, right?
Right. It is because of the, when you're logged into charts, it's based on the configuration you're in. Yep. The whatever charts you're pulling, you're only going to see the information from that configuration. It's by having, if you've got, for some of our plants or customers who, oversee multiple plants and have multiple plants that they need to compare side by side, you can get the same report from plant A as you do from plant B and plant C, and read them all side by side and see what's going on. Okay. Rather than having to change configurations and look at the data yourself, you've got all three of your reports side by side right in front of you. Great. You'll notice here at the bottom of the options, we have something. We've got the Slideshow command line parameters. Some of you are already aware of the command line parameters, but it's pretty much everything that goes into the shortcut. They're great for when we create shortcuts on the desktop, or if we need to run scheduled tasks. Both of those methods, we need the command line parameters in order to open the right desktop or open the right dashboard, set timers, create slideshows. It's also how we can export to email addresses directly. In the help file online, whether it's the help file included with the software, or if you look at the online manual, if you look for the parameters or shortcut, it'll bring up all the information to be able to start GainSeeker charts and open a specific dashboard or desktop and have it automatically start the slideshow. That being said, a lot of times it's hard to, even with that information, can be a little bit daunting to get that information. What exactly is the dashboard information that you're trying to look at? What exactly are the slideshow commands that you need? For that, we use DotLaunch. It is part of the GainSeeker program group on your Windows Start menu. For those of you guys who are running Citrix, you guys probably haven't published this because this is really intended to be used for clients with standalone installations. But what the DotLaunch program does is that it allows you to create the shortcuts as you need to do. You can create a shortcut to automatically open GainSeeker charts, open this dashboard, send it to email. In this case, I'm sending this email to myself, and that's it. And then you'll see at the bottom there, you've got the command line parameters, and there are other ones that you can add, but though using the DotLaunch program and stepping through the prompts allows you to create those shortcuts and do it without having to open the web page and look up the help file and find what each of the parameters you need are. Based on what configuration you need to be in, it'll give you all of the dashboard names. It'll give you all of the desktop names. It's got that list for you so you can build these shortcuts on the fly.
So even Charles, outside of what we're talking about today in terms of Server Edition, DotLaunch is a handy tool for a lot of users if you have repetitive tasks, they have a certain quantity of steps. And we sometimes chuckle at some of our coworkers who we see their desktops are covered with shortcuts. But at the same time, you could do that with DotLaunch. You could create all these different GainSeeker shortcuts that get you to a certain place speedier. And it's like, I know I want to do X, and so here I'm going to create this DotLaunch. It's repetitive, and I save that on my desktop, and boom, I've got it.
Yeah, especially because now, starting with, I think it's this latest version, but it might be 9.2. After you've created your shortcut in the DotLaunch program, you can copy and send that shortcut to your desktop now. And once it's on your desktop, you can save it on the network and share it out to whoever it needs to be shared to. That way, one person can create the shortcuts, and you can run as long as GainSeeker is installed the same way on every computer, every user's computer, they can double click that shortcut and run that in much the same way. Us techs, we know most of the common shortcuts. So we're pretty proficient editing, creating the shortcuts ourselves. But for those of you who aren't as proficient and kind of need a little bit more guidance, that's what DotLaunch has always been intended to be. It's that guided form to say, here's what I need to do. Here's how I'm going to create it. And then now with 9.3 and 9 and later, I can share this shortcut out with the people that need to do that.
Okay.
The other, the server edition allows a lot of automated tasks. So there is, a couple other things that can be done as part of, it. If you don't have server edition, when you look at some of the options in DotLaunch, they may or may not be there. If they are there, they may be grayed out. So if you can't do something specific in DotLaunch, chances are it's a server edition property. In the dashboards, you'll find that there are some properties that say require server edition. And that's something that, if you want to use that property, let us know and we'll help you get on server edition.
All right, excellent. All right. Clicked over, there we go. All right, well, if you have any follow-up questions, please go ahead and enter those in now. All right, we've got one here, Charles. So on a previous slide, you showed some of those command line parameters. In your experience, what are some useful command line parameters to use as you're out helping people set up their systems? What do you commonly use? What are other of our implementation specialists doing?
I know a lot of our implementation specialists will create shortcuts that automatically open up specific inspections, or back in the day would open up specific planned sessions. There may be, sometimes we may have users where they need, in order to access a certain inspection or a template or planned session, they need to log in as a certain user. So by default, we'll log them in as that user. We also have customers who've asked me, hey, how can I have this desktop automatically open at startup because it's a machine that is just there to display information. So we create the shortcut to open up GainSeeker charts, open the dashboard, and we're good.
Okay. We had a question from somebody. Is the tornado siren happen every day in Goshen at 2 o'clock? No, it's just on Thursdays. So we're not that bad in Tornado Alley, but it is every Thursday, which, we happen to pick that as our Tech Tips Live time. So anyway, yeah, great question there. So all right, so back to follow up on that one then, Charles. We have command line parameters and DotLaunch.
Mm-hmm.
How do I choose, or what are the best situations? Because it would seem they are a little parallel in terms of what they do. So when do I use which one?
They're basically the same thing.
Okay.
What it is that DotLaunch is helping you create a shortcut with the command line parameters through a GUI, graphical interface.
Got it.
Rather than having to type in all the parameters yourself.
Okay.
Yes, in the DotLaunch window, when you edit as you're editing the shortcut that you're creating, there is a function to copy arguments. So if you wanted to edit a shortcut yourself, you could start that. You could start the process in DotLaunch, get the shortcut command line parameters that you want, copy them, and then paste them into the new shortcut.
Okay.
Can I add something to that, Phil?
Absolutely.
I'm a big user of DotLaunch. I love it because you can not only set up shortcuts for GainSeeker items or features, but I also use it when I'm preparing for a demo because it will also allow you to put PowerPoint icons or Excel file icons. And so it's not only used for just GainSeeker icons.
Okay. So you can automate all kinds of.
All kinds, Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel files.
All right. So another question about automating scheduled tasks.
All right. So scheduled tasks and automation. So usually when we think of automation, our first thought turns to either a template or a Python script that is running at scheduled intervals, going out, collecting data from text files and storing it within GainSeeker. The best method to do that is with a scheduled task that runs every so often. And much the same way, these scheduled tasks are also used to start the Python script, run the data collection script, and quit out. Set the our customers will say, hey, we need this data to be collected every 15 minutes. So we'll create the scheduled task to run every 15 minutes and make sure that it processes the right amount of data. Okay. Another thing that you can do with scheduled tasks is to automatically, the first thing you do when you log in, open your reports from the day before, and print them out or export them to email, and there you go. You've got your report for yesterday ready to go the first thing in the morning.
Or yeah, you have a stand-up meeting every morning. You can set that task. You come in. Those are all created, produced for you. I mean, if you're logged in, etc. But you could have it go as one of the first things when you come into the office in the morning.
Right. So combining the command line parameters and the shortcuts with a scheduled task is just that next step of automating things to do. So if you have Friday at 5 p.m., you need to know what your weekly everything's going on for the past week. Set that up to finish up or export right at 5 p.m. They've got it in there. Your colleagues have that report in their inbox shortly after 5, and you get to go home, or at least I hope you get to go home a satisfied man for having finished your reports right on time.
Yeah, or
woman.
So the other thing, shoot, now I think I lost my question, lost my train of thought on that one. Yeah. Anyway. Any more? There's a great question so far. We love having the interchange going on here. Anybody else have anything else before we get ready to wrap up here? Oh, I know. I was going to just ask a little bit about sending reports like we talked about supply chain. So I'm making part XYZ for customer PDQ, and they want to see a weekly, a daily report, whatever on the shipments, those quality reports, those performance reports. Again, something I can set up with Server Edition, pump those reports out to them on a daily basis. Happens automatically.
Correct. Of course, the first assumption is that your data is in GainSeeker.
Yeah.
If not, the reports don't really make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, you can set up that end of day report and say, generate this report, email it out, or at least generate it at the end of the day, and then You can look at it when you get in the next morning and then email it out yourself. Or once you're comfortable with how the report looks, you've got maybe a two-step automated thing here where end of the previous day, you generate the report, and then 8 a.m. the next morning, it automatically sends out.
Okay. Oh, the other part of it is, again, coupling with this is dashboards, it's charts, it's desktop. Any of these things we can automate for those types of purposes, right?
Correct. I mean, whatever. Desktops are great because they automatically combine charts. They have charts in them. They've got dashboards. So if a specific desktop for a specific partner, you can set that up, make sure you've got the right data, and then you're exporting that desktop out to whatever your report format's going to be.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, I think we are winding her down here for this Tech Tips Live. The next one is March 19, and Adrian will be here in the host chair, and we'll see who we wrangle in to talk about dynamic reports too. I think it'll probably be somebody from the development staff. But that is a nice improvement we've had here and released with, was that with 9.2 or 9.3? With 9.3. Okay. So dynamic reports 2, enhancements to the dynamic reports engine, that has now been released with 9.3, and we'll be showing you all some of how that operates, some of the similarities and some of the differences. I think how you import in some of your old dynamic reports, because the old ones are compatible, but will need to be imported in. So thank you so much for joining us. We had a great audience today. Thanks a lot for the interaction. Thank you, Charles. And thanks, Adrian, for sitting in. And I'm sure you'll do a great job next month.
Thanks. Looking forward to it.
All right. We'll see you all again. Thanks a lot.